Okay. Hey guys, Alice the Piratina here, and welcome back to Ghost Stories. Well, Bedtime Ghost Story, I should say. We're back to where we were, chapter 5. I think I have no idea how many pages there were. So, yeah, this one's called Sleep Tight. I am shaking as I write this. I was released by the police less than 2 hours ago, and am compelled to record the events of the past day and night quickly and as accurately as possible. In some way, I want to forget, but I know that I cannot. I know that I should not. For my own sanity, I must divulge what has happened. It is far to report. Should I ever allow myself to be swayed by the medical, rational nature of the world once again? These words should have served to remind me that what is unseen is both mysterious and frightening. After Mary left, I knew that I had not lost her forever. But other than consuming by discretion and inaction, I was inaugurated by one purpose, by one thought, by one idea that I knew I had to carry out. I had to destroy that thing, for I could not allow the chances that it may one day hurt my loved ones, or deserted the announce of another child. I also knew that I faced death, but feeling that I had almost lost everything, that was a small price to pay. It is said that revenge is a dish best served cold, but having waited my entire adult life to be rid of this thing, its memory, and the shadow that it had cast upon me, I made the preparation of killing this fiend, this culprit, this pervert faced, with a smile on my face. That night it would be dead, even if I had to drag it to hell with me. Busying myself for the next few hours, I packed a bag and wrote a letter to Mary and my family explaining what had happened and that they weren't to blame. I phoned my mother and father, then my brother, just to hear their voice one last time. But I did not let down knowing that I thought may never speak to them again. My mother's instruction led her to ask if everything was alright. A smile told her I loved her, but before Winston Lake saying goodbye. At about 7 o'clock, I made my way out to the car. The sun had already set, and the streets seemed too early quiet, as if the sins of an unintentional funeral. I sat in the driver's seat, leaving the door on the other side open, waiting for my most unwelcome passenger. 9 o'clock. Nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. The place remained desert, and the cold night air flowing through the open door was beginning to bite. As I sat there, corporation echoed through my mind. I ruminate on the nature of the cangarous parasite. Of course, I mean, sorry. One question rose out of thoughts, towering above all else and unmoving and continuous. Can you kill something which is already dead? I did not know if this was a grave of sorry. Did not know if this was a thing of the grave, or was some unworldly specter which could be considered alive in some way. But just as I was reformulate my plan, there it was. It was subtle at first, but there was a small, almost indistinguishable shift in the suspicion of the car. Had it been any other circumstances, I would have pushed this down to the gust of wind, pushing and pulling to at the chances, but I was so all too familiar with that feeling from all those years ago, as the bunk bed would shift slightly from that thing climbing into the bomb bed. I knew it falls cooling hard. The air grew denser, as if contaminated by some nearby corpse. It wasn't a car with me, unseen, yes, but there nonetheless. As I heard the suddenly whispered breath from the back seat, I leaned over and calmly closed the passenger door. I turned the key and entered, and as I poured out of the street, I could have sworn I heard a quiet, yet distantly matchless singer, as of something mocking me. Did they know what I had planned for it? Our destination was not far, but the roaming hills through which our taking country road penetrated rose up and diminished with regularity, a stark reminder of the ominous isolation of night. Originally on the way, I could hear something behind, but I refused to look for that thing in the dark. Patience, it would not be long before I would confront it. The irony hates me. I was heard about scaring off the same thing which had terrified and tortured me as a child. I had to be silent, and so drove carefully and calmly through the countryside, swarmed by darkness, hoping that my earthly passenger would not suspect me. I arrived. The wheels of the car struggled and slid on the undergrowth as I headed off of the narrow country road. A landscape had opened up, and as I looked at the broken one trees around me, I felt that it was coming to fitting to come to this bleak place in the cold night, to destroy the blinkers of things. The land suddenly came to erupt an uninterrupted end. A cliff edged out from an old quarry, looking deep in the black waters of the lake below. The cliff edge was recently relatively flat, and had in fact at one time housed a road which was subside into the lake decades earlier. The local kids would tell stories about the vengeful ghosts of those who kill during the subsidence, but they were just stories. Perhaps they weren't. In the past, I would disregarded such tales, but who would believe mine if I told it to them now? I switched off the engine and parked several meters away from the cliff edge, switching light, switch off any lights, and composing myself for what would become. I sat in that car for what seemed a lifetime, the only company given me by the original splash of water against the cliff below. I waited. This thing was smart. Of that there was no doubt. It had toyed with me, relishing the pain and torment it had caused as only something of a coldly frozen intellect could. For this reason, I knew it would suspect me, and perhaps even flee if I brought the car too close to the cliff's edge. I had to wait for it to attack. Let it feed, let it refill, and gorge itself on me. Perhaps then it would not notice as I slowly pushed the car into that dark, icy water below. I was going to drown the idiot. I'm not gonna say the swear word, guys, because I'm not sure that's a swear word. I think it is a swear word. I don't know. I had appraised the potential consequences in my head and reasoned that there would be a singular moment, where I would have a slim opportunity to escape with the car just before it reached the edge. Mary and I used to go there originally, a place to be together away from everything else, and it did not look nearly as dark during a summer day. I, therefore, had the place in mind and knew it well. The drop was at least 30 feet in the depths below, and I did not want to be in that car as it hit the water. Not trapped inside with that abomination. I waited. Then I heard it, slowly at first, and then rising at rate, volume, rasping, wheezing breath from behind. Strangely, sounding more labored than before. Even breathed a struggle, filled with fluent, rotten, and decayed. A shiver ran up my spine. A rankful smell began to fill the air. The breath drew closer from behind. My heart began to race, beating hard and fast as I looked up and saw the windscreen begin to ice up from inside. I could see my breath, a natural thing indeed, but what was unnatural was the breath visibly moving across my face from the side. I turned slowly. I wanted to cry. I wanted to leave, run into the night, but I had to stay. I could not allow it to escape. It was sitting in the passenger seat. I was staring at it and it at me, hunched over, covered by darkness. Quartet, grunt, hands, sized as if fighting rigor-minutes. It slowly moved towards me. One bony leg cracked and groaned as it slid over my lap and onto the other side. Oh God, it was sitting on me. It pulled itself in close to me and through a shard of light provided by the moon. I saw his face. Skin hung from its jagged features. Glassy eyes stared deep into me as its grin spread up through its face, naturally wide as a result of its half-run flesh, exposing the bottom muscles, broken teeth, and sinews of its rendered smile beneath. Pulling closer, it opened its mouth, revealing a wet and portrait tongue which could be seen through part of the missing jaw. Okay, it kind of reminds me of something. I'm not gonna say. Wincing, breathed heavily, a full stench which stung my eyes and filled my mouth, and later the spawns from me. As I wrenched my body attempt to expel its poisonous fumes, and as I did so it stopped for a moment, and then cackled itself, happy content, staring into his icy cold eyes. It yet gave an impression of an afflicted and increasingly weak old man. It was still incredibly strong, but it seems as though it had lost some of the potency. Perhaps leaving that untenanted room that had somehow affected. Its long protruding finger caressed my face and then, as a show of intent, it struck one of them deep into my shoulder. I screamed as it bent and twisted inside me. The one influence, moving its finger to cause the maximum amount of damage and pain that it could. As it did so, its other hand slid down against my body. It touched me. It was time. With my free arm, I turned on the indexation, and though my shoulder was still pinned to the seat, I managed to fight through the pain, put the car into the gear, and took off as fast as I could. The creature flamed and screamed, attempt to climb over me into the back seat, but I held on with all my strength. The thought of what it did to Mary enough to fulfill my rage. We raced towards the edge of the cliff, and I eyed the driver's door eventually. As we neared our icy plunge, I screamed anger as its features runs its face and it pushed me off me. It scrambled into the back seat for dear life as I scrambled for mine by unlocking the car door. It was too late. The car careered over the cliff face. Before I knew it, we hit the dark water, splitting the black glass like surface with territorial force. I should have died then, but an airbag took the brunt of my impact, although I still managed to scrape my head across the doorframe. I looked around. The sound I heard coming from that thing was unformed yet familiar. The squeals of some demonic child soon gave away of anguish and rage of an ancient intelligence. which knew that it faced almost certain death. The water was frozen and poured in through the now twisted corridor with such force that it winded me. I gasped for air as my unwilling prey now did. It twisted and twisted as it looked for an exit, spying the open door. It poured itself through the wall towards me. I curled up my fist and smashed it into that thing's face. Pieces of bottom flesh flaked off under the impact as a dark black liquid oozed from the result wound. Again, it attempted to get past me, and I knew that to keep it in that car long enough to drown, that I would have died to die with it. I felt numb as the frozen water slipped under my chin. My heart struggled against the cold, and with a sudden surge, I was submerged and had breathed my last. I held my breath, but only to compose and ready myself for an icy, suffocating death. I hoped that it would be not painful. My thoughts returned to Mary and my family. A all-consuming sense of sadness and despair overwhelmed me. But as I struggled with that thing trying to get past me and through the door, grabbing and flailing with its arm, I looked down and saw it. Its leg was trapped between the dashboard and floor of the car by the impact of the fall. And although it could move, it could not leave. I turned immediately for the door. I could barely see but a foot in front of me in that black water, but there was enough moonlight to light my way. Just as I got to the door, the wrench grabbed hold of me and pulled me back to it. It had given up all hope of escaping, but it wanted to drown with me with it. We fought for what felt like an age in that cold, bitter grave as the car slowly sank deeper and deeper into the darkness. I could now feel my body pleading with me to take a breath, to exhale my last gasps of air, and then inhale the frozen water. I am happy to say that I used my wrist to get out of such a horrible fate. Unweighting my body, I pushed my feet against the dashboard with enough force to at last escape a slippery grasp. I do not remember much else. Body anguished and hate-filled scream that my tormentor let out as I left to die at the bottom of that icy lake. I found myself walking through the wilderness cold, wet but alive. The wound in my shoulder slowed me down, but I kept the bleeding at bay by applying pressure to it with my other hand. It took me 2 hours to walk home, and I am amazed that I did not collapse from exhaustion and hypothermia. When I saw the familiar sight of the street that I live on, I was filled with a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride and treasure. I had beaten that thing once and for all. That is, until I went inside my house and found a trail of large, red footprints leading from the front door to my bed. Disbelief took me, despair so sharp and so overwhelming that I am unable to confine it with the mere words. It was lying on my bed, waiting, wretchedly covering its own body from sight. The human mind is a wonderful thing. Just as you believe your body has reached a level in exhaustion that it cannot recover from, that your emotions are so frayed so that you feel you cannot continue. A thought springs, as if miraculous, from a weary mind. Let it rest for now. I quietly crept through the dark and picked up my wallet, which I had left on a small coffee table in the center of my living room. Leaving the door unlocked, I left to attend to a new plan and returned in an hour. An hour later, with a moment's preparation, I slipped into the spare room. There I lay in that unsullied bed, waiting. I was sure that this was the end game. that instead of toying with me, it would come for the kill. How it had escaped that watery grave, I did not know, but I would be damned if it would escape again. I could only hope that it could sense me from the other room. I closed my eyes, pretending to be sound asleep. Time limbered onwards, and although I fought it, exhaustion finally took me, sending me into a deep slumber. I woke with its hands around my neck. It coughed and spluttered on top of me, and risen black liquid dripping on my face as it oozed with the fragile wind. I struggled, gasping for air and hoping that I had the strength in me to escape its grasp, but it was too strong, and my hand could not grip it with any sense of conviction, as it seemed to be dripping wet from its plunge into the lake. It may not seem natural at the moment, but as my vision dimmed and the last light of consciousness extinguished within me, I did as so many animals do in their last moment, play dead, lying motionless, holding my breath. It shook me violently by the neck and then released me. I waited for a moment, my last chance to destroy this thing. Its labored breathing relaxed slightly and seemed to stare at me almost quizzically. Okay, I'm getting creepy. What the frick? I waited. Sorry. I waited for a shift of weight which might have let me throw it to the ground. Leaning down close to me, its wide, crumbly sneer punctured, gathering its poured Sylvia in its mouth and in what was left of its cheeks. It then showed utter contempt for the living and the dead. It spat with frigid fluids onto my face. The water dripping down into me through a hole in its jaw. I wanted to scream, to do anything to remove such a vile smear on my skin, but I dared move. The time was not right. Leaning in closer, it pointed and scratching at the wound of my shoulder. The pain shears through my body. With all my resonance, I remained motionless. Then it slowly, patiently slid two of its long, distended fingers into my mouth. The taste was overwhelming, rancid, rotten, dead. The arthritic cleaning of its knuckles shook my resolve. As it ached its back in glee, it suddenly pushed its finger down into my throat. I gagged, and in a sort of reaction, instead of being shocked, a grumble laugh intermitted through its rotten teeth as it thrust fingers deeper into my mouth. I felt cold, hard flesh scraping against the inside of my throat, pleading without words for it to stop. In our darkest moments, we sometimes find our true strength. A will to my side using his right against it. I finally managed to break free. I fell onto the floor, its long reach grasping at my feet. I kicked and screamed, and at last I was free. It stared at me for a moment, only for a moment, rising up onto the bed, bristled bones cracking under its own force. It now towered tall and grunt, ready to pounce. Since I was a child, I had been a victim. It had terrorized me, taken my innocence, attacked Mary, and broken my life. I would not stand for it anymore. Sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one who can outthink you. The one that lures you into a false sense of dominance or superiority. The one who has conquered any fear of you with a sense of anger and betrayal. It had fallen into my trap. One convinced a logic, reason, and understanding of the world through the eyes of a scientific mind. Fire cleanses all. as it groaned, shrinked, cracked, and contorted, ready itself to pounce. In one swift motion, I removed a blanket from the floor, refilling a bucket filled with gasoline, which I had bolted in that short time of preparation. I threw it as hard as I could. The liquid splashed all over that horror and the bed. It grinned at me, mocking my very existence, making light of my pain and the agony it had caused. From my pocket, I pulled a lighter, lit it, and threw it into that wretched thing. And with a screaming agony, part of its flesh crumbling away, searing into nothing, in front of my very eyes. I almost felt sorry for it. Let it burn. The fire got out of hand. Thankfully, a neighbor heard the screams and the smoke, calling a fire brigade. I remember nothing of how I escaped. I spent several hours in hospital being treated for light smoke inhalation and painful burns to my hands. It still hurts as I type, but as with many superficial wounds, they will heal. Perhaps there will be a few scars, but I can live with that. The police arrested me shortly afterwards, believing in me in murder. What? They suspect that I killed someone in that fire and find it's entirely suspicious that I have a deep wound in my shoulder and scratches over my body. I've been told not to stray far in case they wish to ask me further question, but they can ask away. I doubt they believe my answer. They found no remains, nor any evidence that someone else was there, bar a strange outline of a figure etched deep into the bed and wall. It looked as though whatever had been there attempted to escape, but I do not think it accomplished this. A weight has now been lifted from my shoulder, one which I now realize was always there, since I was a child, in fact. I believed that thing had an effect on me, even from the distance, and now that it is gone, I will feel whole again. My aunt does his fate of lost Mary, and my house could be written off as I probably be charged off with arson after they realize I started the fire, which means I can kiss goodbye to any insurance claim. My hands ache, as did my shoulder, but my spirit does not. I am writing this from the hotel room. It's more and unassuming, but it will suit my purpose. Tonight I intend to sleep and dream, as I did as a child, before that went, invading my life. I believe that it was my naturally which saved me, my logical thought which would allow me to destroy such an evil. But I will never escape to conclusion that there is much more to life beyond the veil, out there in the darkness. It is a world I have seen, and do not care to revisit. But tonight I will rest, and tomorrow I will build my life again with the confidence that my unwelcome guest is gone forever. I can feel it. I know it. It will take time for me to adjust, and perhaps my mind will play a trick or two along the way. It is difficult to abandon the paranoia of a long lifetime. I must learn to accept my safety again, once again. I refuse to be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my days, but I will always be cautious, as I was in the when I was in the hospital this morning, lying in on a bed, quiet ward. I thought I felt the bed shaking in the brief moment, but I know that it was just my imagination. I am glad I have written down my experiences. It has illuminated much about myself to me, and most importantly, shouldn't anyone ever, God forbid, find themselves in a similar situation, then maybe you will know what to do. Now it is bedtime, and I must rest, for I have never known awareness such as this. Good night and sleep tight. Okay, so that was the end of it. Holy cat. This is Uh, um. Okay. I'm gonna leave that one. I think that's the end of that. Yeah, that was the end of that. So that was the finale. I'm gonna read the bonus one. I think it is. It says the bonus. Yeah, I think I should call the bonus one for bedtime ghost story of it. Gosh, I can't believe he got rid of it. What a clever guy. I mean, I feel bad that he can't be with Mary. That's code name for the girl, his girlfriend, I think. I kind of feel like that his parents and his brother was gonna tell him what's going on and they explain everything. If he's watching this, maybe he does feel the same way about it. Anyway, what's going on with that? Sorry about that. Okay. I mean, drowning his car was a bad idea. Burning your house is good. And I feel bad about his hand, though. And the shoulder. Oh, man. I wonder. And I'm not sure if he's put the photo in it because there's no photo of it. So I think I'm gonna leave it here. So thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Comment down below about do you like this chapter, like 1 to 5. Let me know. And put the subscribe button, hit the bell notification on if you enjoy this video. See you tomorrow. Bye.